I've always found that showing vulnerabilities shows strength because here's the reality. They know your vulnerabilities. They're talking about it behind your back. They know them. Okay. Let's meet them head on. When I find somebody that meets their vulnerabilities head on and exposes them, now we have a place to step. There's nowhere to go but up there.
Do you feel the pressure to grow your business, but doing so feels a bit like drowning? Welcome to Slow Growth Business, the show for business owners and leaders to quiet the noise and lead your business to success, one day at a time, slow and steady. If you feel your business is running you and you're ready to run it, you've come to the right place. Now, here are your hosts, business coaches Jimmy DeGroot and me, Kyle Bullock.
Wow, was that loud enough?
Recording in progress.
All right. So there's a scene in The Office, which is my favorite show, of course, where Michael Scott is talking to Dunder Mifflin headquarters. He wants to talk to Jan, and Jan has to have him fire somebody by the end of the day. It's October 31st. It's Halloween, and Jan is in a meeting. So Michael asks the secretary, he says, is there a way that you know how I can fire somebody and then they're still my friend? And then she says, we need the name by the end of the day, Michael, and hangs up. Sorry about that. And just listen, Steve Carell is my absolute favorite actor, and his character in Michael Scott is, he's a buffoon. He's goofy. He's not very self-aware, and doesn't really care too much or know too much about what other people think about him. But he wants to be everybody's friend, and this is our topic today at the podcast, and Kyle and I are pretty excited about this. And when I say excited, means we're emotionally excited about it.
We're saucy.
We're saucy baby cakes because Michael Scott wants everybody to be his friend, everybody in the office. He always says, business isn't about money. Money means nothing to me. It's about friendship, and it's about business. It's about money. But anyhow, so let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a lot about having those hard conversations that we as business leaders need to have sometime. It's not comfortable. It's not fun, but it absolutely has to happen, doesn't it, Kyle?
Absolutely. It's so funny. I got to make this comment very generally, but we get a message from a client that essentially was passing the decision-making off, or I wouldn't say the blame, but kind of pushing off like, well, let me get the team decide. I don't know, because my team, and then I thought of this. I thought their response reminded me of myself at one point in my own leadership where I was like, I don't feel like I can say yes to this and my team will like it. It'll be hard for my team. And the second I say yes to it, I have to tell my team this. I'm going to get all this resistance, all this pushback. It's going to be really hard. Lots of conflict. Ugh, I don't want to do any of that. So I'm just going to read the temperature of the room with these people. And I hate to say, I was placating what they were feeling.
Yeah.
Now, like, I'm not suggesting right here at the beginning, like, take a hard turn and be like, forget their feelings, and then just force them to do stuff. We're not in the business of compliance. We're in the business of cooperation. But at some point, as a leader of a business, you have to just make decisions. And those decisions are for the betterment of the company and the people involved in it. And you just have to sometimes make hard decisions. You have to confront conflict. You have to say, I am going to lead this company in growth. And that means we must do something different.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be hard. Everyone buckle up. Here we go.
Okay. So how do we arrive at that conclusion? Maybe I said it in the intro here a little bit, but I think passive aggressiveness tends to be fear. And for Michael Scott, it was a fear that they weren't going to be his friend. What is a lot of the fear that that business leaders that don't have those hard conversations and allow things to fester and go on in the business, resulting in a lot of people leaving, right? Turnstiles at the door, a lot coming and going. What are some of those fear things that business leaders have? What's going to happen? Why can't I have these conversations?
Yeah, man. You know what I thought as a book recommendation? A friend of mine wrote this book. It's about passive aggressiveness. And if you don't think that you're passive aggressive, this book will be like, oh, I really am. Help me a lot. It's a book
Yeah.
called The Evolution of a Heel Grabber. Evolution of a Heel Grabber. The
Okay.
author's name is Boyd Barrett.
All right.
Very short little book. It is a bit religious in nature because it's using the story of Jacob and Esau from the Bible. So if you know it about grounding
Okay.
the heel of his brother, okay?
Yep.
Why am I bringing that up here? Because he talks about in the book what passive aggressiveness is that you are behind somebody, pushing them in the direction you want them to go. And you use all these different tactics and ploys to do it. You're pushing them by manipulating them into making a decision or forcing them to make a decision that you want them to make. And why would we do this? As you said, fear of lack of confidence. I'm not confident in myself to make this decision. I'm afraid that people won't like me anymore. I'm
Mhm.
afraid I will lose power and an influence, or the money or the business will fall apart, right? I'm afraid of this whole thing coming crumbling down. And if I make people, if I'm leading the other direction, if I'm pulling people towards me and trying to lead them that way, I'm afraid they won't like me anymore. We hear this a lot. I'm just afraid of conflict. How many times do you hear that, right? I'm
Yeah,
afraid of conflict.
absolutely.
No, you're
Yep.
not. You're afraid of people not liking you. If you're a salesperson, you love conflict because it teaches you what you can, and it's
Yeah,
got
sure.
calm
Absolutely.
objections,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's not. It's the fear that we're afraid of people not liking us, and so we get behind them and we try to manipulate them. And like in my example with myself, I was leading my team by going, maybe if I subversively, subconsciously plant these little seeds along the way, they'll follow the trail. They'll listen to these resources. They'll follow these books and these guides,
Right.
and they'll come to
Right.
the conclusion that this is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's called being passive aggressive. I was being very passive aggressive. And guess
Yeah.
what? They all knew it. They saw
So they
through it.
were working you. They were
Yeah, well,
playing
I
you
was
like a
working
fiddle,
them.
baby.
And we were all just stressed out, you know?
But this is so common. This is common in the world today, right? It just really is. For me, I was a passive aggressive person. I liked people to like me. Okay. Even though on my flag page test, I'm high control, which typically means you don't care what people think about you. I'm a bulldozer. But the fear that I had when not confronting things head on, whether it was somebody coming in on time, whether it was somebody meeting our dress code, whether it was how they behaved on the sales floor, whatever it was, and maybe it was even not adhering to our customer service or sales standards that we have. So there's a lot of different things that could be not addressed, but we don't address them because yeah, they're a pretty good salesperson. I'd hate to lose them. Okay. And so, but ultimately, when I drew it to its final conclusion, what's the worst that could happen? Well, the worst that could happen is these people could destroy my team and ultimately destroy my business. So am I now emboldened to have that conversation? You darn betcha I am. And I think people sometimes maybe don't realize that not dealing with that festering boil will cause death at some time, death of something.
Okay, so here's a question for you. I often use and think about the analogy of frogs in a boiling pot of water, right?
Yeah.
You put
Yep.
a frog in boiling water, it jumps right out, it
Yep.
doesn't want to die. You put a frog in lukewarm water and you slowly bring it to a boil, it will stay there until it boils to death, right?
Mhm.
Because it's acclimating to its surroundings. So what happens in our environments is that we start acclimating to the fear and the worry and the people and the conflict and all the things that are happening. We don't really know how bad it really is. We get kind of a sense of it,
Mhm.
but I find that it takes something, right? Jimmy, like what is it? How do you help yourself discover I'm in a pot of boiling water? And if I don't jump out of this now and change the system, we're
Mhm.
all going to boil to death.
Mhm.
We all do this so to ourselves in all kinds of areas, especially in business. And so, how do you wake yourself up to realizing, you know what? I have been lenient on this conflict happening in our store. I've been lenient to the point of hurting ourselves in not growing the business, having
Yeah,
aged inventory. How do you wake yourself up to how bad the boiling pot of water is?
right. Well, the thing is, I would always try to turn things from emotional, subjective ideals to metrics whenever possible. And sometimes, let's take the example of the negative Nelly. We talked about the negative Nelly last week, didn't we? No, we talked about that in sales training. Listen, folks, if you're paying attention, you got to get this sales training and this management training that we're doing. It's we talked about negative Nelly. So she's a negative Nelly in the store. She's bringing everybody down. I can't really look at any metrics and say, you know, well, you're not adhering to our customer sales standards, our sales standards, but yeah. So what I would do, I'm remembering this as I'm telling you this, is I would talk about the store culture. And I would say, here at this store, this is what we do and this is how we behave. Okay. Call that a Judeo-Christian model where it's do unto others as they would do unto you. And this is how we have to behave here at the store. So, first try to bring it to a subjective metric thing, because then that's just activity. Now you can consult and adjust activity, right? You can let somebody know that if this activity persists, 3 strikes, you're out. Okay. We're only going to have this conversation, a couple times. But then in the case of the culture or the subjective things, I would lean on the store culture and say, this is how it has to work here.
And like I point out, objective measures. When was the last time you've audited a section of your business? Right. I don't care how good your business is. I still do this. Okay. I know you do too. We
Okay.
look at our business with someone from the outside looking in. Right.
Hmm.
And a lot of times you go, if you get in a good spot, you're like, yeah, things are going really well. But I can think of even recently having a team that came in and did a survey of the store, said, man, you're doing a lot of things great. This one thing you're not doing so great. And I went, oh man, you're right.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
right. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, when that happens, especially when there's tension, when there's conflict, when there's financial worries and woes, there's a fear that we have of being exposed. That's why we're being passive aggressive leaders. That's why we don't want to make a decision. It's because
Hmm.
if I show myself in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to show that I'm weak. I'm going to show
You're
that the
right.
business isn't doing well, where the
Right.
finances aren't super great, right?
Right.
And it might be one problem on top of another. It just compounds, compounds, and compounds. Where do I even start? How do you what's your suggestion for leaders who are hesitant to make a decision because they're overwhelmed by being exposed or by showing their vulnerabilities in the business, and they don't even know perhaps where to start? They recognize the pot's boiling, but what do I do about it? Where do they start?
Yeah. Well, I've always found that showing vulnerabilities shows strength, because here's the reality. They know your vulnerabilities.
Mhm.
They're talking about it behind your back. They know them. Okay. Let's meet them head on. When I find somebody that meets their vulnerabilities head on and exposes them, Now we have a place to step. There's nowhere to go but up there, right? And all of a sudden, there's a newfound respect for you because this person doesn't think he's Superman or Superwoman. They are human. They do have vulnerabilities. And then you have what I've found is that you have a team effort to kind of help you along with that. So, for example, one thing that I would do is, I would say, listen, folks, I've just been here a year or two. You guys have been here a lot longer than me. And one of the things that's a really obvious kind of elephant in the room is that our culture's a little off, right? Here are some things that are happening, and maybe say a few things that are happening, and then let's figure this out together how to do this. You
Yeah.
know, I've always had a lot of good luck with that. And then you get team buy-in on the whole, situation.
Yeah, call it
Um,
for what it is.
yeah.
Everybody, like you said, everybody knows.
They know it.
Usually they know it way better than you know it.
Exactly.
Totally, right? And they'll if you invite it, they'll articulate exactly what's wrong.
Well, it's so true,
Inventory
but the other
sucks.
thing be exactly, and you know what? Nobody wants to come to you and have the come to Jesus talk with you, unless it gets to, DEF CON 5 or whatever. What are the different DEF CONs levels? What's the highest DEF CON? Whatever
Uh,
the highest DEF CON is, then you're gonna get that 2 or 3 people that come into your office for that intervention and say, "Listen, Lisa out there is blowing it, and she's destroying every one of our days. Either she goes or we go." And it's gonna be that kind of conversation,
right.
And, you know, and, boy, if you haven't dealt with it before then, you knew about the problem a year ago. You knew about it, but you were afraid to do anything because Lisa was your number one salesperson, and
Right.
she thought she'd ruled the world and could do anything.
And we overlook things so easily because we think, well, what I've got now is good enough.
Mhm.
And good enough is the enemy of great. Right?
Yeah.
I would add this for our listeners. Again, I'm not advocating that you go out there and you just have this de facto style of leadership where suddenly you're going to go just shooting off decisions left and right and left and right. Right? But there are some things you got to take stock of. Have an audit of your business from outside
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
Look for experts who aren't associated with you, peers who aren't competing, and let them reflect to you honestly what's going on. Have your
Mhm.
staff do this from time to time. And
Yeah,
then once you have seen the issues, the only thing that generally broad strokes is that if you see that there's a problem, here's what you can know for sure. That if you continue to do whatever it is that you're doing now, you're going to continue to have that problem and it will get worse.
yep.
So the only other thing you can do is change anything, change something, change anything is better than you continuing this problem and doing
Yeah,
nothing. So go
yeah,
change something. And that's so much better and so much easier when you have someone that you can go to as a leader or a coach. Now, this is going to
yeah.
sound like a sales pitch, and that's because
But,
it
no,
is.
uh,
But
let me I wanna set you up for this because I know where you're going, and I wanna tell you this, folks. Kyle and I have been working together for about 2 years. Maybe it's coming on, it feels like 2 years
yeah,
anyway. And ever since we've been working together, we've been trying to kind of feel our way for how we can best serve people. And we kept asking each other, when are you happiest? And we both answer the question, we're happiest when we're taking people's problems and we're dealing with them one on one, and we're dealing with them head on, and we're seeing success. And now we're starting to see that face relax and the smile come to their face. Anyway, what I want to tell you is this. What Kyle is about to tell you is a program that we've worked out, and we've kind of played around with this a few different ways, but we've worked out and we're really honing in on a way that we can help your business. It has to be every single week. And Kyle, I got to let you take it from here because I feel like we're really in a sweet spot now for helping people.
yeah. Well, we found it, and it's so true, is that leaders have a hard time. We all have a hard time, myself included, on making difficult choices. It doesn't get easier. I'm not going to, I mean, it's not just because you've done it before or you've had to make hard choices doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
The difference we found is that when you as a leader are able to get the audit back from wherever you're getting it, okay, the outside perspective, team problems, inventory problems, money problems, you become aware of your vulnerabilities. And it doesn't feel good. It feels like you're standing in public naked, and no one wants that. So you make a decision as a leader. You're going to shoot from the hip, but it's still scary. And the key difference decision maker, I believe, and I know you believe this, Jimmy, is that when you as a leader have someone you can go to and
Mhm.
talk with and visit with and go, man, what am I doing? Am I
Yeah.
doing this right?
Yep.
I want to tell a story real quick. One of my guys, I got a handful, very small handful, but a mentor of mine, his name is Mike Derby. Mike Derby taught me a lot of what I came to know in the jewelry business, especially on how to run the business. I've known Mike and worked with Mike now for 15 years, probably 15 years this year. And he has taught me an enormous amount. But one of the things I value about Mike, we're talking about this before the call, is we have a relationship where if I have a problem, I can call him and he answers, and I might already know the problem. I might already know the answer at this point. Like I have a gut
Mhm.
feeling I'm going to do this thing,
Right.
but I'm
Yep.
scared. I'm feeling vulnerable, as I described. Mike can respond to me with wisdom and experience in a tone that is confident and sure. He's not in the middle of it. He's not scared. He's not in the thick of the worry that I'm in. And that's actually kind of calming to me because when I talk to him, he's going to look at me and say, all right, I've been there. I've done this. Here we go. You're going to do one, then two, then three. You're going to call me in a month. We're going to see how it goes. We'll measure it. We'll guide it. I know what I'm doing. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, yes, sir. And then I go do it. Let
This
me
sounds
tell
like
you,
us, by the way.
that's what we do now. The value that we want to give our clients is the value of having somebody that you can call on with some regularity. And they will help audit your situation. And two, they'll look at you with confidence and say, do one, then two, then three. You're going to be okay. We'll measure it. We'll guide it. We've been there. We've done it. I got you.
Yep.
Now go. That as a leader will help you overcome passive aggressive leadership
Yeah.
because you'll have someone coaching from behind you saying, you got this. You're going to be okay. Now get
Yep.
out there and lead.
Right. And one of the things we found that is, and it's ubiquitous, is you're usually good at one or two, maybe three things in the business, but there's you're not good at this or whatever that is, right? Bookkeeping, leading people. You may have started if you're in the jewelry business. A lot of people started on the bench. They're amazing goldsmiths. They're amazing technicians. They don't know anything about leading a team. Nothing. They sign the paychecks. That's about it. And I'm not trying to be belittling here. They admit this. you know, I got this team. I don't, and so the aspect of what I was talking about before is once a week, what we do is we deal with one of these things each week. So Kyle does a P&L review. Kyle works very closely with the inventory. And this doesn't even have to just be jewelry. It could be any business, really. And then there is the team aspect of things, the leadership. And so we are dealing with something every single week. And I'm just offering that to you. If you're interested in that, send us an email or give us a call and we'll talk with you about it. We're not going to take on everybody in the world, I promise you, because we can't do that. And we won't do that because we don't have that much time. But man, if you're in dire straits, or even if you're in some kind of straits, or even if you just want to start stepping away from your business and you haven't scaled it enough, you're kind of doing everything, you got to give us a call. This is where we help.
Don't take this away. Don't do leadership alone. And when
No,
you're the
that's not.
leader of your business, you cannot look to your staff to fill that void. They
Yeah,
are not your friends. They are your employees. They can't be your friends. You're their boss. I'm
right.
sorry to tell you this. They're not your family, although some of them are literally your family.
Exactly.
But you have
Exactly.
to understand that your team And the people that you lead are looking at you for decision making, not the other way around.
Right.
And so once you're in that seat and you're leading a company, an organization, you have to go out then and seek out the mentors that you want around you. So you look for the people that you have confidence in, that know what they're doing, and that you trust. And then you get that feedback. We hope it especially in the jewelry business, we hope we can fill that for some people. But don't do leadership alone. Get an audit and then lead with a coach behind you, giving you guidance. So.
Well, I tell you what, I've done business on my own and I've done it with a partner. And the day I talked to you, I said, here's a guy with the same amount of energy and passion. And the load was off my shoulders. It's just heavenly. And honestly, I see that in the faces of the people that we work with, that, the load is off. I say to them, listen, I'll have the meeting with your team. You will? Yeah, a big surprise there, so that's fun. All right, so we got to wrap this up. We've gone pretty long here, but thanks for listening, folks. And if you've listened all the way to the end, it's an issue. You've got to deal with these things head on. Don't do it alone. If you don't deal with it, the infection will grow. Things will get worse. And if you haven't recognized how it's gotten worse already, take a look at your employment turnstiles. Take a look at the door. How many people have been in and out of your business in the past few years, just left, and they've said, well, I found something else. They didn't tell you the real reason. You need to get to the real reason. And in a lot of cases, I think you know it, right? Yeah.
All right, guys, good luck out there. We're here for you.
We hope you'll leave this episode a little better than when you first began. If you'd like more resources to grow your business slow, steady, and consistently, check out our on-demand video catalog at trainretail.com. Or if you have a question or frustration we can help address in your business, write to us about it. We love to help solve big, ugly problems. So hit us up at kyle@trainretail.com or jimmy@trainretail.com. Good luck out there, and we will see you next time.